everybody gets the question of why you're drastically underperforming, the Bitcoin benchmark. A massive use case for AI, and you get this if you converse with AI yourself and ask it questions. It clearly wants to use the blockchain rails. There's a lot of the big centralized U.S. stablecoin exchange custody players that are lining up to do IPOs on New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ.
My name is Mia, and you're watching Proof of Talk, a short series of podcasts where I'll be interviewing the leading founders and investors in crypto. All interviews are unscripted, meaning the guests have no idea what I'm about to ask, and neither do I.
Proof of Talk.
We're in Hong Kong with Proof of Talk, and today I'm with Casper from Spartan. Casper, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me back.
I'm excited to have you back. I want to know what you think about this whole craze that the year started, with the Trump token. I thought the year is going to be about the AI agents and we're going to have AI summer. And now I'm hearing a completely different story. So it seems like the tables have turned. Tell me your perspective on this.
Yeah, I think when we last spoke, it was at Southeast Asia Blockchain Week, and the general view was let's get through 24, let's get through the election, and then 25 is going to be the year where we're all happy again, and the year we all needed to recover after a few difficult years.
Yeah.
And it certainly was trending that way over the course of Q4, with the election results and, poly market and everything clearly skewing towards a more crypto-friendly regime in the U.S., both in the White House as well as in both houses of Congress. Mm-hmm. And we got that result and everybody was pumped, right? And then, as we know with politicians, they often say one thing, do another. I don't think that's the case in this case necessarily. I do think there's a real commitment to bolster the sector, mm-hmm. but things take time, and there's a lot of other priorities for president and the cabinet, and I think they have already issued some executive orders that are helpful, set up some committees, but then what we really need for things to be sustainable is new legislation in the U.S., and that has to go through both houses of Congress, and that'll take time. Otherwise, we just risk another reversion potentially to the past if the political regime or winds change. And then I think that's kind of on the macro level. And then macro also plays in a lot. So we've seen inflation remains sticky and hence rates are not coming down, and that just generally still is not helpful for the asset class. Mm-hmm. And then one of the things that has been difficult for all public market investors in crypto, especially fund managers, is the fact that Bitcoin has been so strong. Yeah. Because as a fund manager, especially now with the Bitcoin ETF out there, you're generally not paid to invest in Bitcoin. Although you can hold some position, but you shouldn't be 80% weighted to Bitcoin. But in a year where, alts do 40, 50% up, which is great on an absolute basis, Bitcoin does 120%, everybody gets the question of why you're drastically underperforming, the Bitcoin benchmark. Oh, yeah. And then then on top of that, with this, the meme coin craze was kicked off last year, and now with very much larger meme coins coming out, some of them completely legitimate, and some of them obviously just opportunistic ways to maybe scam people out of money, right? Either via sniping ahead of them or just outright rug pulls. Yeah. That is not helpful for the sector in terms of just, reputationally, we're seeing a lot of institutional interest. We're seeing potential regulation many places. We kind of have, become immatured a little bit, I like to think. And I think meme coins are a great asset class, and it's a financial expression of kind of social proof or views. And yeah. I think it's got a lot of great use cases, but they're also very easy to manipulate people with them. So pros and cons, but I think that's held the market back a little bit. And then there's just a lot of still uncertainty right now. But I think I'm overall positive. I think there's a setup for a strong market this year. Yeah. There is a lot of capital that wants to come in on the institutional side. The retail's a little bit shaky, but they can change their minds pretty quickly. So overall, I'm still optimistic. It hasn't been as strong a start to the year as I would have hoped sitting here kind of in mid-February.
Yeah, I lost a bit of hope in the beginning, but then I started and mostly like here, like talking with people, I kind of see the way through. And you just mentioned the institutional angle, and it's so true. Like, it seems like the summer we always have the DeFi summer, Solana summer. I always ask people this question. And as I said, like towards the end of the year last year, I was hearing more like the AI summer, and it has shifted to the institutional summer.
Yeah. Well, I think the AI narrative is different in a way than from narratives we've had before, because to me, AI is now, it's no longer like a meme or a buzzword. It's really, people have realized how foundational it is, and it's arguably the most important thing that's happened in, many decades, if not kind of our lifetime, in terms of just the impact it's going to have across not just Web3, but all sectors. And it's becoming just standard now. You have to have an AI strategy. You have to figure out how to use AI in your business, both in terms of not only the cost side, but actually more on the revenue side. And a massive use case for AI, and you get this if you converse with AI yourself and ask it questions, it clearly wants to use the blockchain rails to create this financial ecosystem to incentivize AIs, to work with AIs, et cetera. And so I think that's super interesting. And it's just very hard to see how it'll play out, who the winners will be. And AI agents are, effectively now just, AI software, right? And they're also developing quickly, just like software, once upon a time developed really quickly. Now, putting tokens around all this is also tricky. Like, to what extent does an AI agent need a token? Does it want a token? It also depends on what the agent does and what are the tokens used for? Are they just like purely meme type tokens? Are they used by the AI to actually facilitate what it wants to do? I think it's such a broad space. It's hard to generalize, but I'm still very optimistic about the intersect of crypto and AI.
What other areas in crypto do you think are going to come to highlight? Because at the moment, obviously, like meme coins are taking central stage. I feel like AI is kind of like waiting in the corner. As soon as there's a moment, it will like come forward. But there's a lot of other things that people are talking about, like here and there. Are you still paying attention to? Are these like the two main things you're paying attention to, including also like what institutions or the institutional side is doing?
Yeah, I mean, no, we invest broadly across the space, so we also pay close attention to what's going on in the infrastructure layers, what's going on in DeFi, what's going on in gaming. We're a big investor in Web3 gaming. We have a dedicated venture fund for it. And gaming tokens have had a difficult 2024, and the start of 25 has also been choppy. What the sector is really waiting for is, I think, just proof that Web3 teams can launch successful games that have Web3 components.
Yeah.
And there's both crypto native teams working on it, as well as very large gaming studios, for example, out of Korea, working on it. So it's taking longer than I hope, but I'm still confident that we'll get there. And that'll give the sector a big boost, both in terms of adoption, attention, but also just positive proof of use of AI infrastructure. So that's something that we're watching. I'm also spending a lot of time on M&A, mergers and acquisitions, in the more centralized side of crypto. So between exchanges, stakers, data companies, custody providers, media companies, more maybe traditional business type models where it's very fragmented right now. And there's definitely consolidation coming across all those sectors. And we're quite involved in that too, helping founders find strategic solutions.
Interesting. Yeah. Do you have like an example of this?
Yeah, I mean, I can give examples of what we've done in the past, because similar transactions are going to happen now. It tends to come in waves. It's like M&A happens on an ongoing basis, but it's definitely years where it happens more than other years. And I think 25 will be a year where we see a lot of it. So back in 2021, we saw a lot of it. One example was, we sold a regulated exchange in the Philippines called Coins.ph to a private equity buyout fund. So basically, it was owned by Gojek. They wanted to sell it ahead of their IPO, so we helped them sell it. And these type of exchanges and assets, I think, will be very active in the M&A market with the large global exchanges that currently are starting to get licensed in different jurisdictions, but applying organically, going through the process can take many years. And in some locations, it's not even a possibility because the government just said, no, like, we've issued the license we're going to issue. So these are the players. And then you have no choice but to come in and buy a platform, or if you want to save the 3 years of pain and cost, then you want to enter quickly, you also do it. So I think we'll see that across most markets in Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, Middle East, and South America. We're going to see these smaller exchanges kind of get bought up. Similar in the staking space, where there's a lot of small, medium staking providers, where it's increasingly becoming a infrastructure like capital play as well as distribution. And it's hard if you're even if you've got great technology and you're profitable, it's just if you're a little bit subscale, it can be hard to see how you grow your way out of that. And then the choice would be just to, if you can't beat them, join them, become part of a bigger platform, and then eventually get an exit that way.
Yeah, it's an interesting dynamic, for sure. Is there anything else that you see coming, like any other predictions?
I mean, what I think, my view is that this year the U.S. is really going to be the place to watch. Two key things need to happen in the U.S., in my opinion. One is we need to see IPOs start happening. So there's a lot of the big centralized U.S. stablecoin, exchange, custody players that are lining up to do IPOs on New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ.
Okay, yeah.
And getting those done, I think, will be very positive. One, because it shows that the SEC really is back and it's supportive. Second is that there's investor demand for the platforms. And third, it brings a different level of attention to the industry and also credentializes it with kind of the mainstream. And at the same time, it allows all these companies that now, if they want to go and buy up and consolidate the industry, they don't have to just use their cash or private shares that nobody wants. Now they have public shares that are traded and have a value and can easily be sold by the seller if they don't want to hold on to the shares.
Yeah.
And I think that'll drive a lot of the activity in the sector. So that's the one thing, the IPOs in the U.S. The second thing is the regulation in the U.S. Now, that's been touted, it's been promised, talked about, that ideally needs to come through this year. I'm not sure exactly in what format it'll take and what kind of framework, and whether it'll be just a partial one and more to come. But if the IPOs come and regulation comes from the U.S., because everyone takes their signals from the U.S., all the regulators, all the stock exchanges globally, it is still by far the biggest, KOL, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if those two things happen, I think it'll be positive for everyone in the industry across gaming, DeFi, Layer 1, Layer 2, Southeast Asia, Africa, Middle East, everywhere.
It's really interesting, yeah. The gaming aspect, I do see it being an obvious major door for mass adoption, and it makes so much sense. I think and it's more of a question, but I think from my perspective, it seems that good games today just take a while. Yeah. But other than that, is there any friction on the blockchain side, or is it just the fact that good games, the standard is so high that good games just take time?
Yeah, I think it's the latter. I mean, most games that are building, there are some that are building on-chain games, where you're literally playing on-chain. But the bigger ones that are launching are more I would call them Web3 enabled, where they're built as a traditional game, but the value in the game, the assets, either an in-game currency, the weapons, whatever you pick up, that is on the blockchain and hence owned by the user and over time transferable potentially to other games, but certainly owned by the user.
Yeah.
For that, I don't think there's any infrastructure bottleneck. It's just more a question of, yes, it takes a really long time to build good games. And in our sector, we're not the most patient of people, but it's taken even longer than people thought, right?
Yeah.
But we're starting to see some of them come out. Conzilla Games launched Off the Grid, which has had a huge amount of users come on, and we'll be launching further versions of it. And there's lots of other studios launching games. So I think it's just a question of time. There'll be both like these big AAA type games as well as more casual games that have blockchain and Web3 components, either obvious to the users or just kind of behind the scenes, but more this concept of they're your assets, you keep them, and you can actually buy, sell, trade them, or move them to other games.
Mm-hmm. Is there a segment that you see that still needs more attention in terms of infra?
Yeah, I think one of the narratives we've seen come back this year is RWAs.
Yeah.
And RWAs, they do have the issuance infrastructure. Like you can tokenize things. There's a lot of platforms that can do that. They do it well. There's actually also licenses for it. What I would like to see is the secondary market infrastructure for RWA. So basically the exchanges and the secondary market. So it's no use if you tokenize something and it's a token, but you can't sell it anywhere and there's no liquidity in it. Then it's kind of just the same as a piece of paper you have in a safe at home.
Yeah.
So I think, and that's a little bit of a flywheel that needs to be going, both in terms of RWA infrastructure. What I'm hoping also is that regulation somehow allows for RWA tokens to be somehow also brought into the broader crypto ecosystem.
Yeah.
So like if you have a yield product, it could be like a combination of a loan on Aave and like some yielding tokenized treasury or real estate token, and it's just like bundled, and you have. I think that'll come over time, but I'd like to see the RWAs start coming more into the the broader crypto ecosystem.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. For everyone watching, where can they find you?
At conferences primarily. I do tweet at Casper Johansen, but I'm not like a prolific.
They can DM me.
Xer or Twitterer. Yeah, they can DM. But I do hit a lot of the conferences, and then obviously the SpartanGroup.io website for more general info. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds good. Casper, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Proof of Talk.